Hello and welcome to Legion Logs, episode 4. My name is Mark Sinazik, and in this episode we're going to be reviewing an Australian sci-fi film called Occupation.
Yo, we've stopped.
Why?
Stretch our legs.
Meet back here.
Careful, Bella.
Mum, it's a country town. What's gonna happen?
Put your hands together for the ex-captain, Matty Simmons, ladies.
Marcus, what is that?
Take cover! Danny!
Hey, is that your daughter? We've got to go! See you.
She's behind us!
The life that we had is gone. These guys are here to stay. We want this back, we're gonna have to do something.
We've got people here looking to us to leave. I want to know what your plan is.
My plan.
And you promised you'd help me find my family.
An occupying force can be brought to its knees if you have the will and the drive to fight.
What do you see?
Everything.
Australian Army! We're going to get you out!
Don't fade into nothing.
It's your town. Some kind of biological weapon.
Hold what you've learned.
Our first priority is to get our families out.
Dad, we can't leave.
Need it now.
What now?
We fight. Or we die.
Let's do this.
Let's take them down! Come on!
What's the plan?
Save the planet. That's the plan.
Australian cinema is often inundated with the latest Hollywood blockbuster fare, which makes the film I'm reviewing today very refreshing. That film is called Occupation. It was written, directed, executively produced and edited by Luke Spark. Occupation tells the story of an alien invasion of the planet Earth. And in a small Australian town, the inhabitants see their town utterly destroyed, and alien occupiers move in and enslave the population. A small band of survivors escape the town in the chaos of the initial invasion, the initial attack, and hide out in the bush. And there they form a small resistance army. Their goal, to fight the aliens and try to win back some freedom, try to drive them off, as Sisyphean as that may seem. The film stars Dan Ewing, Tamura Morrison, Stephanie Jacobson, Rhiannon Fish, Zachary Garrett, Izzy Stevens, Charles Terrier, Charles Measure, Felix Williamson, and Tristan Go. There are a couple of guest stars in this film that I want to throw a special mention out to. One of them is Roy Billing, who stars as the town mayor. Now, Roy Billing is going to be very familiar to Australian audiences. We've seen him in everything. He's been in all the major Australian TV shows. He's been in Australian films. He crops up everywhere. He's been acting on Australian television since the 80s, the early 80s. And seeing him on a screen really is a bit of a treat. He's a great actor, and it's really good to see him in this genre. It's a shame that we don't see him later on. He's sort of there, and once the aliens attack, after the chaos of that scene, that alien invasion scene. He kind of disappears. It's not really known what happens to him. Presumably he might have been killed, which is a shame. Would have been fun to see him later on in the film, but you know, for a spot, it was good to see him. Now the other guest actor in this was Bruce Spence. Now he's also going to be very familiar to Australian audiences. We've seen him in all the Ozploitation movies of the 70s. We've seen him in Australian television series and Australian films. He's one of those very familiar faces alongside Roy Billing. He's been working in the industry since the 70s, so he brings a lot of experience and a lot of charisma as well. Now he plays the role of the alien leader, which is an interesting role for him. Virtually unrecognizable, pretty unrecognizable under, obviously all the alien makeup. So it's good to see those two actors in it as well. A lot of the cast is, about half the cast is, youngish actors. We've got Tamura Morrison, who is a veteran from New Zealand. You may remember from Once Were Warriors. And there's a whole slew of other films that he's been in as well. He brings a lot of gravitas to a very young cast as well. He sort of grounds it very well. Occupation has a great pace to it. Luke Spark does extremely well at managing the flow of the film. We've got a very nice introduction to the characters. We've got all the characters basically assembled in one location, all introduced, in the same setting. They don't have to travel far. They're all in this one town basically that's attacked. Now, in centralizing all the characters that we're introducing at the same place, it means we're not jumping too far. We've got some of the characters, we've got a young family, we've got a young couple. We've got some football players, and they're all in this match. They're all here together. So we're seeing them, and we're seeing some of the conflict between two of the football players that comes up. It's a very nice way to introduce the main characters, because there is a fair few of them. And the way they introduce it, we don't really know who specifically we're going to be following, but we learn very quickly who is who and the types of people these characters are. For any major science fiction film, special effects are key. They are key to making the story look good. They're key to making it believable. As well as having a great story, you've got to have good special effects to back up what you're trying to present. And in Occupation, we're in for a treat. We've got some amazing special effects. They work very well. There wasn't any part in the film where I was taken out by the special effects. I didn't see something go, oh, I don't believe that, or nothing really jumped out at me. So that's a big win there. They're very easy to screw up if you've got the wrong people working there. Clearly, the producers behind it have nailed that as well. The score was very good. I enjoyed the music. Music flowed very well with with what the action we were seeing. It was touching and tender at the moments it needed to be. It was tense and dramatic when it needed to be. It all helped support the film. So the music, score, the cinematography was right on point. It really made the Australian bush look really beautiful. We do spend a lot of the film in the bush, and then of course when we move to later in the film, where the action against the aliens really steps up a pace. Trying to avoid spoilers here, so there's going to be limited description. The cinematography alters and creates the nice sharp sort of alien feel to the sections of the film that required that. So the cinematography was on point in this film, and that was very good. The performances were really good. The actors really excelled at their roles. I think again it helped that these characters were believable. These were, you know, you and me basically. One of the really interesting things I found about this film was actually the notions of war and how war changes people. This is sort of heavy themes that are not generally explored in these sorts of popcorn fare Hollywood films. We don't really see characters go through, you know, a crisis of, oh, you know, I'm becoming a more brutal person, you know, or, you know, I'm seeing this person that I really love and they're becoming really savage. Like, you know, they're, after all this battle against the aliens, they're really sort of becoming very, like, torturing aliens and stuff like that. We don't see that a lot in Hollywood films. It's very, very simplistic in terms of how the people behave. Good heroes, dark villains, defeat, you know. Whereas in this film, we actually see, we get into the psychology of what it's like being, you know, living off the land, living, you know, with total uncertainty of what the future is going to hold. Are they even going to be alive tomorrow? Are they going to die tomorrow? You know, they could get, you know, their head blasted off or something. So it was good to see these characters go through their own arcs as they're faced with this situation, and how each of them react and how each of them comes out of it. Some of the characters head down a darker path, whereas others find themselves on a more humanitarian or altruistic path, and each time the characters, as we approach halfway through the film and towards the final act, you know, the characters are realizing, you know, who they are deep down, or they're heading down the path and something happens and they're drawn out of it. They're like, this is not such a good path to be heading down. So it's the characterization there was very good, and that also helped to keep our attention, like draw our attention a little bit away from the action that in these sorts of films can sometimes get very mindless. Instead of just seeing, you know, an hour of our heroes slaughtering aliens, where we see that action, but then we see the consequences of that action. So it adds a lot of depth to the film and adds a lot of depth to the characters. And it's interesting to watch that. Interesting to see our characters, say, at the point where they capture an alien, and a couple of them want to torture the alien, and then others are actually, you know, appalled by this notion that they would want to torture this alien, who is, they take the view he's you know, just a soldier, you know, it's not right. They invade us, but then how can we be better than them if we're just going to be torturing aliens? So these are the sorts of questions that the film throws up, and it's interesting to see that explored. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. I was expecting, you know, a little bit of cheesy humor. There's definitely some cheese in there. Towards the end, there's a bit of cheese. I think the way the film ends does tend to, it lends itself to cheese a little bit, but it's still a very satisfying way to end. And one of my favorite scenes is definitely one of the cheesy scenes. It's a flag waving scene. Again, I just reminded of all the Hollywood films that we've all seen, and there's always, you know, an American flag, the stars and stripes, you know, flapping away proudly in the thing, inspiring the people, or just being there on a bridge or something as we're panning across. And in this scene, in this film, in Occupation, we've got that, but instead of the stars and stripes, we've got the Australian flag. It's just, it's weird to see. There's a shot where a character at the end is like carrying it over the battlefield, basically. You do buy it a little, because these people have fought for their freedoms, and they've fought these aliens, and they've fought for their families and loved ones. So there is a lot of depth and meaning behind that flag waving, that flag carrying aspect. But again, my favorite, I do enjoy that shot, because it's fun to see a flag being waved that's not the American flag. Apologies to any Americans who are watching this. You've got a very nice flag, but we just see it way too much. Yes, this is my review so far. It is a great film. Occupation's a great, entertaining film with a fair bit of depth. I give this film 4 out of 5 stars. We've got great cinematography, we've got great direction, interesting characters that we care about. The performances are top-notch, very believable. The emotions come through very strongly. Cinematography is fantastic. There is the music, which works very well. And they tell a very nice, interesting story. An interesting alien invasion story. And, you know, we get a little bit about the aliens as well. We find out a little bit about why they're there. We find out about their reasoning as well. And, you know, we hear it from them, as opposed to one of our main characters just, you know, realizing somehow what their intentions are. We actually, you know, there is a little bit of communication between our human characters and the aliens. So that works very well. So overall, I would say this is a terrific outing by our director, Luke Spark. He's got, hopefully he's got a lot of film opportunities coming up, because I definitely want to see him making more. Hopefully we see some more in this universe he's created with these aliens. I would definitely love to see an Occupation 2 and 3. So yeah, we'll just have to see what time has for us. Well, that brings us to the end of episode 4. Hope you enjoyed our review on the Australian sci-fi film Occupation. That is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray on October 3rd from Sanity and Easy DVD. Now, next time on Legion Logs, we're going to be looking at a great sci-fi series called Babylon 5. Ciao.